Your neighbor's tomato plants are loaded with fruit right now. You can see them from your yard, clusters of red, hanging heavy off every single branch. And then you look at yours. Same neighborhood, same weather, same season. Beautiful plants, thick stems, dark green leaves everywhere. And maybe a handful of tomatoes if you are lucky. You have been out there watering, fertilizing, doing everything right. And you genuinely do not understand why it is not working. That confusion is not your fault. The information most gardeners follow is incomplete. Some of it is just wrong. And the frustrating part is that the harder you try more fertilizer, more water, more attention, the worse the problem gets. There are 4 mistakes that turn tomato plants into leaf machines. Today I am going to show you exactly what they are, why they happen, and the exact fix for each one. No special products, no expensive tools, $0. And one of the fixes uses a $4 tool you probably already have sitting in your bathroom right now. More green does not mean more tomatoes. More correct signals do. Mistake number 1. Fertilizing at the wrong time. So what is the first mistake? It starts with fertilizer. Specifically, the type of fertilizer you are using. And when you are using it, here's what most gardeners do. They buy a general-purpose fertilizer, something like a Dotter's the 10th of October 2010, or a balanced all-purpose blend, and they apply it on a regular schedule all season long. It feels like the right thing to do. The plant looks healthy, it is growing fast. The leaves are dark green and lush. That looks like success. It is not. In fact, that dark green growth may be the exact reason you are not getting tomatoes. A tomato plant has 2 modes. The first mode is grow, build leaves, build stems, build roots. The second mode is finish, make flowers, set fruit, ripen. And here is the key. These 2 modes are controlled by the balance of nutrients you give the plant, not the total amount. Nitrogen tells the plant to stay in grow mode. Keep building, keep getting bigger. Potassium and phosphorus tell the plant something different. They say, time to finish, time to make fruit. If you keep feeding a fruiting tomato the same fertilizer you used when it was a seedling, it will keep acting like a seedling. More leaves, less fruit, every single time. The fix is simple. For the first 3 to 4 weeks after transplanting, a balanced fertilizer is exactly right. The plant needs to build a strong root system and a solid framework of stems and leaves. That vegetative growth is important early on, but the moment you see your first flower clusters opening those small yellow star-shaped flowers at the nodes, that is your signal to switch. Move to a fertilizer with a lower first number and higher second and third numbers. Something like the 10th of May, 2010 or a 488. You can find tomato-specific fertilizers at any garden center that follow this pattern. That shift in nutrient balance sends the plant a completely different signal. Time to stop growing. Time to make tomatoes. Now, if you are growing in containers, one more adjustment. Container soil loses nutrients much faster than garden beds because every time you water, nutrients wash out through the drainage holes. In the ground, you can fertilize every 3 to 4 weeks. In a container, you need to fertilize every 10 to 14 days. Same low nitrogen formula, just more often. One quick warning before we move on. If you have been adding Epsom salt to your tomatoes, stop, unless you have a real reason to. Epsom salt only helps if your soil is genuinely low in magnesium. On normal garden soil, too much magnesium blocks calcium absorption and makes blossom end rot worse. The only sign you actually need it. Older, lower leaves turning yellow between the veins while the veins themselves stay green. No symptom, no Epsom salt. Mistake number 2. Pruning like every tomato is the same. Now that your plant is getting the right nutrients at the right time, the next mistake is one that causes more arguments in the gardening community than almost anything else. Pruning, specifically, whether to remove the suckers or leave them alone. Here is the truth. Both sides are right, and both sides are wrong, because pruning is not a religion. It is a variety-specific tool. The mistake is not pruning or not pruning. The mistake is treating every single tomato plant the same way. A sucker is that small shoot that grows in the joint between the main stem and a branch. Left alone, each sucker becomes a new stem with its own branches, its own flowers, its own demand for energy. On a large indeterminate plant, you can end up with 60 to 80 growing tips by midsummer. Every single one of those tips is pulling energy away from the fruit that is already forming. But here is what most videos leave out. How hard you prune depends entirely on what variety you are growing. If you are growing large fruiting varieties, Beefsteak, Cherokee Purple, Brandywine, Prune Hard, keep 1 to 2 main stems only. These varieties produce fruit that can weigh up to a pound per tomato. Too many branches means the weight snaps them. Fruit hits the ground and rots, and the plant cannot size up individual tomatoes properly. 1 or 2 strong stems, well supported, will give you the biggest, most consistent harvest from these varieties. If you are growing cherry tomatoes Sun Gold, Sweet 100, Black Cherry Prune loosely, keep 2 to 3 stems. Cherry tomatoes produce small, lightweight fruit that does not stress the branches. More stems means more flower clusters, means more fruit. Pruning these varieties as hard as a beefsteak actually reduces your total harvest. And if you are growing determinate varieties, Roma, Celebrity, Rutgers, do not prune the suckers at all. Determinate tomatoes have a genetically preset size. Every sucker you remove is a fruit cluster you will never see. One rule. 3 completely different outcomes depending on your variety. But even if you fertilize perfectly and prune correctly for your variety, your flowers can still drop without setting a single fruit. And the reason is something most gardeners never even think to check. Mistake number 3, waiting for pollination. That never happens. You fixed your fertilizer. You pruned correctly for your variety. Your plant is covered in flowers, and they are dropping off without turning into fruit. This is the mistake almost nobody talks about, and it is probably the most fixable problem on this entire list. Your tomato flowers are not getting properly pollinated. Here is why this happens. Tomato flowers are designed to self-pollinate, but the pollen is locked inside a closed cone. It does not fall out on its own. It only gets released when the flower vibrates at the right frequency, somewhere between 200 and 400 times per second. In nature, that vibration comes from bumblebees. They grab onto the flower and buzz their chest muscles at exactly that frequency. The pollen shakes loose, falls onto the stigma, and fruit develops. But here is the part that surprises most people. Honeybees generally do not buzz pollinate tomato flowers the way bumblebees do. They may visit the flowers, but they do not release tomato pollen as effectively as bumblebees. And most backyard gardens do not have enough bumblebees to pollinate every single flower on every single plant. The fix costs $4. An electric toothbrush. Turn it on and hold it against the stem right behind each flower cluster for 2 to 3 seconds. That is it. The vibration travels through the stem into the flower cone and shakes the pollen loose exactly the way a bumblebee would. Do it in the morning before the heat builds up, when the flowers are most receptive. Research, published in BMC Ecology, confirmed the electric toothbrush works just as effectively as a specialized tuning fork for releasing tomato pollen. Studies also show mechanical vibration increases fruit set by 35 to 60% compared to plants with no pollination help at all. You do not need a perfect technique. You do not need to touch the flower directly. You just need to vibrate the stem long enough to release the pollen. 2 to 3 seconds. Every morning. During flowering season, that one habit alone can be the difference between a plant full of dropped flowers and a plant loaded with fruit. Now everything we just covered applies whether you are growing in the ground or in a container. But if you are growing in containers, there is one more mistake that can wipe out everything you just fixed overnight. Mistake number 4. Watering containers like garden beds. The first 3 mistakes apply to every tomato grower. This one is specifically for anyone growing in pots, containers, or raised beds with limited soil volume. And, if that is you, this might be the single most important thing in this entire video. Every watering rule you have ever heard about tomatoes was written for plants growing in the ground, and almost none of it applies to containers. Here is the core difference. In the ground, a tomato plant can send roots 2 feet deep searching for moisture. The soil acts as a reservoir. You water deeply once or twice a week, and the plant draws from that reservoir between sessions. Some gardeners even recommend letting the soil dry out slightly between waterings, a mild stress signal that can nudge the plant toward fruit production. In the ground, that works. In a container, sudden water stress is a disaster. Container soil dries out 3 to 4 times faster than garden beds. There is no deep reservoir for roots to reach into. When temperatures climb above 85 degrees, a mature tomato plant in a 15 to 20 gallon container can drink up to 1 gallon of water per day. Miss that window by even a day or 2 during a heat wave and you lose every open flower overnight. The plant drops them all at once as a survival response. The fix is simple, but it requires consistency. Check your container soil every single day. Push your finger 2 to 3 inches into the soil near the base of the plant. If it feels dry at that depth, water now. Do not wait until tomorrow. Water slowly and thoroughly until water runs freely out of the drainage holes at the bottom. That is not waste. That flush rinses out salt buildup from fertilizer that would otherwise damage the roots over time. And remember what we covered in mistake 1. Container plants also need fertilizer every 10 to 14 days, not every 3 to 4 weeks, because every time you water, you are washing nutrients out through those same drainage holes. In the ground, mild stress is a signal. In a container, sudden stress is a disaster. Those are two completely different plants that need two completely different approaches. Before we wrap up, there is one bonus problem that is not your fault at all. You cannot fix it with fertilizer. You cannot fix it with pruning. It is just summer heat. When daytime temperatures stay consistently above 90 degrees and nighttime temperatures stay above 75 degrees, tomato pollen becomes sterile. The flowers open normally. They look perfectly healthy, but the pollen inside is not viable. Nothing you do, no fertilizer adjustment, no pruning, no electric toothbrush, can fix sterile pollen. The plant is not dying. It is just waiting for better conditions. Do not panic when this happens. Do not add more fertilizer thinking the plant needs a boost. Just wait. What you can do is reduce the heat around your plants using a shade cloth rated at 30 to 40%. Drape it over a simple frame above your plants. That alone can drop the temperature around your tomatoes by 5 to 8 degrees. In many cases, that is enough to keep pollen viable through the worst weeks of summer. And plant early. In zones 7 and 8, that means transplanting 2 to 3 weeks after your last frost date. In hotter zones, the goal is the same. Get your plants established early enough to set fruit before the worst summer heat arrives. Here is everything in one place. When you see your first flower clusters open, switch to a low nitrogen fertilizer. Something like the 10th of May 2010 or a 488. Skip the Epsom salt unless your lower leaves are turning yellow between the veins. Match your pruning to your variety. Large fruiting types, 1 to 2 stems. Cherry tomatoes, 2 to 3 stems. Determinate varieties like Roma or Celebrity do not prune suckers at all. Every morning during flowering season, run your electric toothbrush along the stem behind each flower cluster, 2 to 3 seconds each. $4. Zero complicated technique. If you are growing in containers, check soil moisture every single day. Water until it runs out the bottom. More green does not mean more tomatoes. More correct signals do. Drop a comment below. Are you growing cherry tomatoes or large fruiting varieties like Beefsteak or Cherokee Purple? Tell me your variety and I will tell you exactly how to prune it for maximum fruit this season.